small boats. What's the announcement today?
We've made a really significant agreement with France that we'll be announcing today. Home Secretaries in northern France making that agreement in the next few hours. This is about a surge in activity to tackle small boats. So as a result of this deal, we'll see more than 40% more boots on the ground. We'll see specialist units around maritime operations, around riot squad type activity at the beaches. So real step forwards in tackling the smugglers and stopping people getting on those dangerous boats.
I'm interested that some of this money to France is kind of contingent on results. Is that a bit of an acknowledgement that maybe in certain situations in the past, France weren't, I guess, trying as hard as they could to stop migrants crossing the Channel?
No, that wouldn't be the way I'd characterise it. You know, the deal has a core funding for things we know we're going to need come what may. It has a conditional element, which for the first time our predecessors left us with a deal where that was never the case, where there is innovation funding, where we're looking at things to see, you know, the model changes of these smugglers. These are cynical criminals. So as those change, we'll see what works. If things don't work for the first time, they'll stop being done. So this is an important partnership with our neighbours.
So it's nothing to do with the fact that, you know, you're trying to say it's payments on results.
Well, it needs to deliver.
It is, right?
Like, it's the British people's money. Like, it needs to deliver. So it's
is
right.
That because you think France hasn't, I guess, always... Isn't it more of an incentive for them to try their hardest to stop migrants crossing the Channel?
I wouldn't say so. If it's about efforts, it's about impact. And those two things are different. You know, if you're talking about an action on a beach where it could be 2 or 3 young men and women, French men and women, trying to stop you know, where there is real kind of riot-type conditions, that's really difficult. It's not about effort. It's about making sure we have the right tools, the right approaches, the right innovations to have the impact.
OK. I want to talk to you about maternity as well. The statistics out today, frankly, beg a belief. 20% more mums dying in childbirth than they were, like, around a decade ago. More babies dying. In 2026, it is appalling, frankly. The chief midwife telling Sky News today that it's not good enough. It isn't good enough, is it?
Well, it's not. And, you know, a lot of your viewers will be people from Nottingham, from my community. We've been at the very forefront of this. Our maternity scandal, which is our review through the wonderful Donna Ockenden, is coming to its full... its final stages. That is going to have some very, very upsetting conclusions to it. We know that already. We know that, you know, ours is not the only one. There are others around the country too. We know that through the national inquiry that's going on, that's going to tell us a lot too about the state of, you know, of maternity services across the country. You know, these are really awful things to read and to hear and drive us to change.
I think that, you know, it's not just a time for reviews though, is it? And I understand there are some things that have been announced today. But don't you just need to crack on and do some big root and branch reforms about training midwives, about the quality of midwives, about one-to-one care, all of this kind of stuff? That's what will make a difference, isn't it? Why don't you just get on and do it?
Well, absolutely. But it's right that you do that based on the best possible evidence, because...
But we've got all the evidence. Talk to Donna Ockenden. She's done reviews on this in the past. We know the problem. We've got the evidence. We've had hundreds of recommendations.
Well, as you know, I talk to Donna a lot. I'd never talk for Donna. I'm not brave enough to do that. But, you know, what I would say is that we ask people to do really serious bits of work. They work with affected families. It's right that we let that information come forward to give us the conclusions. Our absolute duty, what we have to do, is make sure that when those conclusions come forward, that they're acted on. You've seen some of our activity already in terms of our investment in health services, because we know staffing is definitely an element. But that, you know, I want to be clear to listeners, we accept the challenge in this area. We're as saddened as they are, and it drives us all to want change.
Could we talk about the Mandelson appointment now? We have the top civil Cabinet Office civil servant Kat Little in front of the inquiry today. 2 other civil servants, Ollie Robbins, Sir Griff Wormald, have lost their jobs. Civil servants have paid a pretty heavy price for what was a political appointment, haven't they?
Well, it is right that you know, first of all, as your viewers will have seen, the Prime Minister has taken accountability and apologised for a decision that we would not have made if we had the facts that are available to us today. It is right that that process is looked at as to why we got to this situation. It is right that there's accountability within that process too. That's what people would expect to see.
I mean, you know, we've heard... There's a lot I could pick on, by the way, in that answer about, you know, having all the full facts, but I don't want to get into the... We've rehearsed the Mandelson arguments before so many times. I just want to talk about the civil servants, because, you know, we know from reports of Cabinet that several ministers raised concerns, and I know you won't comment on elite reports, but I can as a journalist, about the way civil servants have been, I guess, treated in this, and that they worry about keeping them on side, making them feel valued. Do you share those worries?
Well, I know that every day I work with brilliant civil servants, scores of brilliant civil servants who love their country, who deal with difficult challenges. You know, look at the fruits of that today, of what we've achieved with France, which people told us we'd never be able to achieve. We, of course, want that people to work in the best morale, you know, the best support possible. I believe that's the case. I believe Britain's, you know, a brilliant country to be a member of the civil service of. I always want my constituents to be in there and others to want to too. So, no, I think we've got a great working relationship with the civil service. And again, as I say, I think we see some of the results of that.
A lot of people have lost their jobs over this. Should Keir Starmer lose his?
No, you know, the Prime Minister has been accountable. He's been there in front of Parliament. He's been very clear about what happened and why it happened. Everything he said has been borne out. Well, he's been accountable in that he has been asked to express...
What, Prime Minister's questions?
Well, both. But no, but he had, but also more than 2 hours on Monday answering everything that he'd that he'd been asked to answer by all parliamentarians of all parties and none, been very clear about what he knew and when. It is really important to recognise that subsequent, whether it's select committee appearances or whatnot, have borne out that sequence of events.
Should he be referred to the Privileges Committee?
Well, that will be a matter for the committee and for Parliament. I would strongly say, because the Prime Minister is ultimately accountable to Parliament and the British people, but you will have seen, as I say, more than 2 hours on Monday of scrutiny of everything he knew and when, a long debate on Tuesday, Prime Minister's question time on Wednesday, and not to forget that this has been debated previously too. You know, the Prime Minister has been held to account. And,
by a couple of PMQs and by, you know, making a statement to the House? I mean, come on. You know, look at the list of people who've lost their jobs over this.
Well, I'd say, Sophie, you know, the idea that 2.5 hours in Parliament where every single parliamentarian got the chance to ask any possible question, to be clear that the Prime Minister had followed those rules and those very important safeguards that Parliament has, I wouldn't diminish that as just a couple of questions.
Not everyone agrees with you. Jonathan Brash, Labour MP for Hartlepool, says it's now when, not if, Keir Starmer goes. I'm completely fed up to the back teeth with the psychodrama in Westminster, the own goals. Will Keir Starmer lead Labour into the next election?
Yes. I mean, I would say to Jonathan and to others, look at what we delivered this month alone. You know, huge decreases in waiting lists, minimum wage increases, triple lock increases. In my community alone, the lift on the two-child tax credit limit will take more than 5,000 children out of poverty. That's action at the pumps, action on our energy bills. This is a government that's getting on with change, spearheaded by our Prime Minister, and we should be all pulling in that direction.
Are you frustrated by your colleagues who aren't sticking to that line that you've just given to us?
No. It's, you know, we're in a parliamentary democracy. Jonathan's my mate. Like, you know, people must say their piece. That's absolutely fine. We're you know, that's part of the political process.